Elevators in WoW have heavily been beamed upon by the player base since the game first launched in 2004. So in this video we'll be taking a look at some of the more notorious ones out in the open worlds, and not the ones that are located inside of instances like raids or dungeons. And at number 10, we have a 6-way tie. While 6 may seem like a lot, it really wouldn't make much sense not to combine all the lists from the Howling Fjord. The Howling Fjord is a zone located in the southeast of Northrend and is from the expansion Wrath of the Lich King. The zone itself has one of the most unique landscapes in all of WoW, as it features steep coastal cliffs, jagged shorelines, and a tall plateau atop which most of the zone is located. Because the main part of the zone is a huge space above the surrounding coastal areas, it is no surprise there are several elevators located throughout the zone to help facilitate players going up and down to travel various locations. The first of these 6 lifts is called the Ancient Lift. This is not a true elevator but more of a ski lift, and instead of a platform it has boats. The Ancient Lift is located on the southwest portion of the Howling Fjord and leads to the Tuskar, the Isle of Spears, and the town of Kamagua. The lift is also notable because of how easy it is to misjudge when the suspended boats arrive and leave, which results in the players usually falling to their death. Perhaps it also provided the inspiration for Jaina's entrance near the Siege of Undercity. The next 4 lifts are all located along the cliff sides of the Howling Fjord near the coast and all have the dragon's head near the top. The Excavation Lift is on the southern coast near the Dwarven Expedition Camp, and the Stonewall Lift is located on the southeast cliffside, close to where you can murder a lot of turkeys for the achievement Friend or Foul, which requires a player to kill 15 turkeys in 15 minutes. The Vengeance Lift is located in the east close to the Forsaken Outpost of Vengeance Landing, and the West Wind Lift is close to the Ancient Lift on the western side of the zone. The final lift in the Howling Fjord is the Midwall Lift, which is located in the middle of the zone, somewhat close to the Utgard Keep, and it also features a dragon's head on top. Howling Fjord has by far the largest number of elevator bosses of any zone in WoW. While flying mitigates many of these elevator bosses' abilities, low-level and new Wrath of the Lich King Classic players, while questing, should still be on the lookout for these fierce bosses. And at number 9, we have a small unnamed elevator in Stormheim. It is located near a Forsaken Outpost in the northwest of the Legion zone. This elevator probably is a reference to all of the previously mentioned lifts in Howling Fjord, since Stormheim has many Vicroll influences. This elevator is notable for being pretty small, making it very easy to fall off of. However, aside from flying, there is an alternative way around this boss, using the Stormheim grappling hook instead. Additionally, this elevator boss can be a little buggy at times when the assets don't properly display on the player's client. And at number 8, we have the elevators from Shattrath City in the Burning Crusade. 2 of these elevators are located on the opposite sides of the city and lead to one of the 2 opposing factions. The Scryers or the Aldors. Aside from flying, the only way to sneak into the other faction is to use their elevator, which has many hostile NPCs surrounding it. While the player can switch allegiance to factions by turning in repeatable items for rep, only one faction can be chosen at a time. The walls and cliffs of Shattrath City are quite tall, and the elevators can be a bit wonky when stepping off of them at the top. Overall, these elevators aren't too bad, but they are some of the most annoying NPC centers in the game to go out of your way to get to if you don't have flying. And at number 7, we have the Shattrath Overlook elevator from Warlords of Draenor. While somewhat comparable to its counterpart in TBC, this elevator is much smaller and located past many mobs in a far corner of the city. An elevator in this mini-zone is a bit odd, but perhaps it was originally envisioned as part of the Shattrath City raid in Warlords of Draenor. For those of you who don't know, an entire raid tier was scrapped in Warlords of Draenor's development, and the raid would have been located in Shattrath City. In fact, there is so much scrapped content from Warlords of Draenor that we already have a whole video about. Link in the video description below. The only thing that Shattrath City and Talador eventually was used for was just some rares and dailies. Getting to one of the rares called Hirumaredx the Observer is only possible by using the elevator to get to him, but it also requires 5 players to summon him, which is always a headache for solo players trying to earn the achievement Heralds of the Legion. This achievement requires players to kill 7 rare elites throughout Shattrath. Several other miscellaneous achievements are in this mini-zone of Shattrath City, and it's such a shame that nothing more was ever added to this part of Talador. Several other elevators exist in Shattrath and WoD, but the Shattrath Overlook had so many higher-level hard-hitting demons guarding it when it was current content that it was very hard to access. This fact, coupled with the fact that it was the only way to reach one of the rare elites, and that WoD originally did not plan to have flying, meaning for all of WoD this would have been the only way to get up and down here, made it the spot where many players died, especially as they raced across the city drawing huge packs of mobs trying to get to the elevator, and then the mobs would pile on the players as they waited for the elevator. And at number 6, we have 3 elevators in Orgrimmar. Any low-level Horde player who has not yet bought flying will remember the annoying trip having to wait to go up any of the 3 elevators that go up to the central plateau in Orgrimmar. Many new and low-level players easily fall to their deaths from the top of these elevators, and they seem to take exceptionally long to travel between the ground and the Zeppelin central stage area. Many skeletons can be found on the Orgrimmar elevators on new player servers, sometimes to comedic effect. To make things worse, all players who wish to travel using Zeppelins but do not have flying must not only wait for Zeppelins, but also for the elevators so they can ride up to get to the Zeppelin towers and then climb the towers themselves. The new portal room for BFA is also pretty far away from the center of the city. and is also built into the walls of Orgrimmar, which doesn't seem to be the best plan for defending the city if it ever comes under siege again. If the capital cities are ever updated, for Orgrimmar, I think many would like to see the portal room added to the central plateau of the cities, close to the Zeppelins, and have the portal room expanded. And of course, add several flights of stairs going up and down the central plateau so we don't have to wait forever for the infamous elevators to take us up. The Orgrimmar elevators are slow, loud, and difficult to time properly. However, their fall damage is usually not so bad, and flying makes not having to use them pretty easy. Because they are only mildly annoying, Orgrimmar elevators only land at number 6 on our list. And at number 5, we have the twin elevators of Dazar'alor. These two elevators take players from the Great Seal to the throne of the Zandalari King atop the main pyramid. These elevators are quite a headache for several different reasons. First, they are relatively small and have no siding, meaning it is very easy to fall to your death from above if you have low HP. Secondly, since they are technically located inside, you cannot land on the top of the pyramid and ride the elevator down. Instead, you must fly back down and out one level to get to the same area the elevator would take you. This elevator is frustrating in a very similar way to that of the one elevator the Warsong Hold in the Boran Tundra. Third, the elevators are pretty slow, and you may find yourself tapping your foot while you wait. Fourth, the elevator layout from the top is a little weird at first, sort of zigzagging into the little enclave before you find the top part of the elevator. Below, in the giant seal, the two elevators are located at opposite ends of the room, crammed into the walls in the north and south of the room on the second level. These elevators are also right behind important NPCs, which is a little odd, and as a result the NPCs seem more like an afterthought and do not fit the space very well. While the Dazar'alor elevators aren't really going to hurt many players, they certainly can be a nuisance and are, in terms of layout and function, some of the weirdest elevators in all of WoW. And at number 4, we have the numerous elevators found throughout Revendreth. These elevators are pulled and lowered by giant chains from the stone gargoyles atop the many bridges, barricades, and towers of the zone. These elevators are notorious for several reasons. First, when Shadowlands initially came out, they could be quite buggy. Secondly, these elevators traverse such great heights that accidentally falling off of one means almost certain death. Because of how big the vertical spawns they cover are, this means many elevators take a long time to wait for. These elevators of Revendreth were also a PvP hotspot and are a pain to travel on them multiple times because of the zone's levels of verticality. Even with all of these nightmares surrounding them, these elevators were still required to navigate the zone before flying was added, which made them even more unbearable. In total, there are about 7 elevators in Revendreth, and while some are certainly worse than others, they can all be a pain. The layout of Revendreth makes this even more of a problem, not only in respect to its verticality as previously mentioned, but also because the zone is so subsectioned into smaller specific zones, especially questing in World Quest area. And at number 3, we have the 5 elevators of Undercity. These elevators are infamous for several reasons. To start off, they are very small. So small, in fact, that bigger players such as Tauren sometimes have trouble being able to fit inside of them. The elevators are crammed and their layout makes them even worse. There are 5 elevators in a semicircle arc at the top behind the throne of Lordaeron, and there's a confusing series of passages to enter and exit the elevators. This area is very confusing for newcomers, with Undercity's concentric rings in all 5 elevators up to leading to a singular room with a statue and several archways. 5 of these small passages lead to the Undercity elevators guarded by abominations, with these last 2 led out behind the throne room. These entrances are not marked, so even experienced players will likely take a couple of seconds to orient themselves upon stepping off of the elevator after taking it up from Undercity. There is another way into Undercity through a tunnel in the sewers, but it takes much longer and the exit is pretty far away at the base of a mountain, not even remotely close to the throne room, although this is the entrance used during the Wrath of the Lich King siege of Undercity. The elevators are often necessary to travel as well, especially since many holiday events and NPCs take place in the courtyard above Undercity. Love is in the Air, Hollow's End, and Pilgrim's Bounty all have events and NPCs that are located in this courtyard. The fastest way to currently reach them since BFA is to take the portal from Orgrimmar to Undercity and then use the confusing elevators. So much traffic on the elevators and their necessity for transport makes them even more annoying during several holidays. Finally, the elevators can be buggy, with players glitching through walls and doors, disconnects, and even being able to fly through the roof of the elevator into the elevator shaft. While the Undercity elevators aren't too heavy lifting, it's their many mechanics that make them a terrible world boss to fight. And at number 2, we have the 3 elevators of Thunder Totem. Thunder Totem is the capital of the High Mountain Tauren and was added in the Legion expansion. These 3 elevators are notorious for how many people they kill, and how easy it is to be killed by them. First, there is a long drop from the top of the Thunder Totem to the inside drum circle at the bottom of the mountain. This drop is so long it kills many players even to this day. This fact was even used to the advantage of some PvP players who would hit players to get an honorable kill and then dropkick them down this elevator. This is Sparta style. The elevators are the fastest way to get to and from the bottom part of the Thunder Totem, since it takes much longer to fly off the upper part, down the base, dismount, and walk through the tunnels to finally get to where Melee is. There are also several instance versions of Thunder Totem, such as a Legion Invasion, where you can still fall to your death, much to your embarrassment. If you're really resourceful and can somehow make it to the drum center in the Thunder Totem before hitting the ground, it will negate the fall damage, since the drum circle acts as a giant trampoline. Bouncing on the drum circle enough times that other players will award the secret achievement, Drum Circle. And finally, at number 1, we have the 3 elevators from Thunder Bluff. Apparently, the Horde is much more fond of elevators in general, since there are so many of them in their cities compared to the Alliance ones. Thunder Bluff is situated atop 3 small plateaus in the middle of the Mulgore Plains, and has 3 different elevators to reach the city going from the ground to the city above. All 3 elevators go to the central part of the city and are all infamous for their ability to kill unsuspected players. Not only are these elevators relatively small, but they move fast, and one misstep can lead the player to falling to their death. Thunder Bluff may be very strategic as a city due to its geography as essentially a floating island, but its 3 entrances to the city are also guarded by some of the hardest elevator bosses in the entire game. These elevators are the only way in and out of Thunder Bluff, aside from teleporting and flying, meaning that before the Cataclysm and flying became a thing, 4 Alliance raids into the Torn capital could easily be stopped by a single Shaman's thunderstorm flinging them from the city to the floor below. Before the Cataclysm and Deathwing got a bit too edgy and caused a tsunami, there was another elevator going from the Barrens down to the bottom of the Thousand Needles. This elevator was very similar to the ones outside Thunder Bluff, and was called the Great Lift. While it was destroyed in Cataclysm with the Zone update, the Great Lift has such a far drop that has probably killed the most amount of any elevator boss in the open world. It does still exist on classic servers, so if you want to go check it out and plummet to your death, it might be worth your time to see this elevator boss before it was removed. The Torrent and High Mountains cousins do like their elevators for some reason. Alright, and that's the video. Admittedly, a bit of a silly premise, but this makes it easier for a part 2 of the video where we go over the top 10 elevator bosses in instance combat. The video was originally just going to be top 10 elevator bosses total, but we decided that instance elevator bosses deserve their own separate video. And if you're a Panduran rogue, you can pretty much just ignore this entire video, because you perpetually take 75% less fall damage. What elevators did we forget? Let us know down in the comments below, and don't hesitate to post what videos you want to see more top 10s on. See you in the next one, and until then, watch your step.